With us now to interpret the path ahead for the Democrats and what Donald Trump's win means for Canada is former U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Bruce Heyman. Hi, Ambassador. Good to see you. Thank you so much for making the time.
Pleasure to be with you, as always.
Your impression, your initial takeaway from the framing there from your friend and the President, Joe Biden, calling this a setback and urging supporters essentially not to give up. Did he have any other choice but to deliver that message?
No, not really. And that's the right message that the president should deliver. He's the, stepping down president. He's leaving his post. And he wants to encourage the people who have supported him, the people around him, his vice president who didn't make it. He wants to encourage everybody not to give up. That being said, we were pretty handily beaten on a national level, and I would consider it a shellacking. And this is a moment where I think Democrats on a national basis have to do a fairly significant reset, have to look at what it is they're communicating, how they're communicating it, but most importantly, what's their vision? And is their vision as a party aligned with where the American public is today? And apparently, looking at the votes, at the federal level, and we can get to the state level in a minute, but the federal level, we were not aligned with the American people. They didn't believe in the message we were sending. And if I hear another Democrat turn to me and say, the people just don't understand and appreciate all the good things we did this administration, whose fault is that? I mean, that's the fault of the White House and the president and the communications team. That's not the fault of the people. And so, look, it's time for a reboot and a reset. He's right. Get up, brush off. But we can't go fight the same battle the same way all over again.
I wanted to ask you what your impression is as to how widespread within the Democratic Party that view that you just espoused is. And I'll tell you why I'm asking. There have been some, prominent Democrats saying exactly what you did. But there's others who are quick to say, look, incumbents across the world are facing a huge issue. Not untrue in any way, but sort of deferring to that as the primary explanation for what happened. Or what you outlined, right? It's just that people don't get the stuff that we put in the window. Do you think that there is going to be as robust a conversation as you have indicated you would like to see actually take place within the party about the path forward?
Look, I think it will happen. This is pretty raw. It's just, hours, just a couple of days afterwards. And, we'll reach that point. We've already seen the head of the Democratic Party announce that he's not running for re-election. So we're going to have a new head of the Democratic Party. There will be new leadership. There'll be a lot of people jockeying for who's going to try to run for president against the Republicans. And it won't be Donald Trump. It'll be a Republican. But we have work to do to figure out how we're going to do that. But let me make this one point while we're all here. If you look at the states and you look at the fact that a majority of the states that Donald Trump won, those battleground states, they also voted down ballot for Democrats. So when we were talking about split tickets, I think Democrats thought the split ticket would be you'd vote for the vice president and Republicans down ballot. It's actually the opposite that happened. And so Tammy Baldwin wins in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Trump wins. Alyssa Slotkin wins in Michigan. Trump wins. You have the whole Democratic state party winning in North Carolina. Trump wins. You look like you have a win with Rubin in Arizona. Trump wins. And so we have a real split between local Democratic politics and federal Democratic politics. And I think that's where the problem is.
Do you think that's where the message went awry? When you talk about sort of meeting, I think what you're saying is that the federal level of the party didn't meet voters where they were, if I understand your comments correctly. Do you think that's where the divide lies, that essentially people at the state level had a better grasp of the fact, for example, as exit poll shows, people are seized with their economic challenges, and that was not addressed adequately at the federal level?
I don't think this administration, which I believe in, and I'm close to the president, and I believe in his heart and his values and his policies. But the administration did an ineffective job addressing inflation when it first started taking off and understanding the pain that was being felt by the average man and woman. And they kept leaning in on the stock market and GDP growth and employment growth. And wow, we got the strongest economy ever. But economy is only as strong as the individual person feels when they go to the grocery store, when they pay their utility bills, when they pay their auto insurance, when they pay their rent. And what do they have left over? And if nothing's left over for vacations and holidays and healthcare, then they're feeling squeezed. And that's what was happening over these last few years. And we didn't meet them there. And then we had the migrant issue, which I think was completely mishandled by the administration because they demonstrated they had the ability to handle it at the end. And they said, oh, it was
Right.
Donald Trump that stopped them, and it was the Republicans that stopped them. No, you actually implemented policies that actually addressed the issue, and you could have done it 3 or 4 years earlier, and you didn't. And so those are two key issues the Republicans really grabbed onto, and we could have easily handled that. And thus we end up where we are. And women's rights were important. But in a lot of states, not all of them, a lot of states at the local level, they were voting to protect those women's rights.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah, another difference between the state and the federal level. You're absolutely right. I have a kind of sensitive question to ask you about the politics of this all. And it, of course, involves your friend, Joe Biden, because after that speech today, there were some Democrats, and there have been, and I get it, it's just been a few hours. Everyone's looking for an explanation. But pointing the finger at him and saying, look, you had promised you were going to be a transitionary president. And essentially, you changed your mind. You waited too long to decide to leave the race. You were one of the few people in advance of Joe Biden making that decision who publicly stated that you wanted him to do so. I remember initially you had hoped there would be some sort of public contest, which may have been more possible if he had made that decision sooner. Ambassador, do you think that if Joe Biden had decided much earlier to leave the race, that it would have been a different outcome for your party?
It might have been. And you never know. Donald Trump is a master communicator, and he makes people believe that he can actually do the things which I don't believe reasonable, smart people believe that he can do. But he addressed people where their concerns were. And I don't know if that could have been turned around, even if we did this earlier. And so I'm not going to say that and look back through that lens. We are where we are now, and we have to look forward and what we can do as a party on a national basis to be able to have the vision, the policies, the communication that meets the American people where they are, not where we think they should be, but where they are, and address the issues that they have day in and day out. And I think we can do that. And I think we've actually implemented some incredible policies that, my best guess is Donald Trump will not unwind all of them. He'll just take credit for them. And instead of those beautiful new bridges being not built in the infrastructure bill, he'll just name them the Trump Bridge and call it that and take credit for it. And, in this weird way, if we get a new bridge, he can call it anything he wants. I want better infrastructure for America. And so it may be the price we have to pay to see his name everywhere.
Ambassador, I'm out of time. I have to leave it there. I appreciate your time and your frankness tonight very much. Thank you.
Be well. Take care, everyone.